Leaked voice note. Oat Pasakorn's emotional confession to Boat before their dating reveal. It began with a whisper, a small sound file sent to an anonymous fan account late one evening. The caption was simple: "Listen before it disappears." Within minutes, thousands of fans rushed to hear what would become one of the most talked-about leaks in Thai entertainment history. The voice in the recording was soft, breaking, and unmistakably belonged to Oat Pasakorn. The file opened with a few seconds of silence, followed by Oat's breath. "I don't know if he'll ever feel the same," he said quietly, "but I can't hide it anymore. Every time he laughs, I lose myself a little more." His tone wasn't rehearsed or cinematic. It was real, trembling with a kind of honesty that fans rarely got to hear from their idols. The background sound suggested he was alone, maybe in his car or late at night on his balcony, the hum of distant traffic carrying his confession into the darkness. The voice note wasn't long, but it carried weight. In it, Oates spoke about moments that now, in hindsight, fans could trace back to his interactions with Boat Yonggiat. He mentioned the day by the river, when Boat had rested his head on Oates' shoulder during a shoot break. He mentioned the night I almost told him, which fans quickly matched to the rap party of My Stubborn, the series that had brought the two together on screen and off. By morning, hashtags flooded social media. Oates' voice note trended in multiple countries. Fans replayed every second, analyzing pauses, matching each breath to possible timelines. But beyond the frenzy was a shared ache, the sound of a man who had been quietly in love, long before the world knew. What made the confession so haunting wasn't just what Oates said, but what he didn't. The final seconds of the audio were a whisper. He doesn't have to say it back. I just need him to know. Then silence. No music, no background noise, only a faint exhale, as if he had finally released a burden that had lived on his chest for months. When reporters reached out, neither Oat nor Boat made any public comment. But keen-eyed fans noticed how their recent posts began to align. Oat posted a picture of the sunset with the caption, "Some truths find their way home." Hours later, Boat shared a simple photo of his hand holding a paper cup, scrawled with the words, "Found it." It was enough to confirm what everyone already knew, that the voice note wasn't just real, it was love laid bare. Behind the scenes, those close to them spoke in quiet admiration. Crew members from My Stubborn remembered late nights when O would linger behind after shoots, staying back to make sure Boat got home safely. Others recalled how Boat's energy seemed to shift whenever Oat entered the room, the quiet confidence in his eyes softening into something gentler. There was one particularly emotional recollection from the night the show wrapped. The cast had gathered for drinks, laughter echoing across the rooftop bar. It was past midnight when Oates stepped outside alone, phone in hand. Minutes later, Boat joined him. They stood side by side, looking out over the city. No one heard their words, but when they came back inside, both looked different. Lighter, calmer. That night, fans now believe, was the same one Oat mentioned in his confession. After the leak, Boat was seen at a small cafe near Ratcheta, where the two often met privately. He looked tired but peaceful, wearing the same bracelet Oat had given him months earlier. Witnesses said he spent an hour there alone, sipping iced tea and occasionally smiling at his phone. Later, Oat joined him. They didn't hide. They sat by the window, sunlight spilling across their faces, as if the world had finally caught up to the truth they'd been living quietly. What truly moved people was how natural they seemed. There was no performance, no attempt to look perfect. Just two men who had been through storms and found peace in each other's presence. Their conversation was calm, full of laughter, Oat's hand occasionally brushing against Boat's. A moment that would once have been whispered about now felt like a silent declaration, love without fear. Fans flooded social media with messages of support. Some wrote that the voice note gave them courage to express their own feelings. Others thanked Oat for showing that love, even between public figures constantly under scrutiny, could still be real, vulnerable, and brave. As the days passed, neither of them denied the recording. Instead, they let their actions speak. Oat began appearing at events wearing a necklace that Boat had designed, while Boat started ending his live streams with a quiet, "Good night, stubborn heart," a phrase fans knew was just for Oat. It became more than a love story. It was a revelation of honesty in a world obsessed with image. That short voice note, only 37 seconds long, broke barriers more than any announcement could. It turned whispers into admiration and rumors into truth. By the end of the week, their management released a short joint statement. Some words were never meant to be heard, but we're grateful they reached hearts that understood. We are happy, we are learning, and we are walking together. It was simple, elegant, and sincere. In a time when most celebrity romances feel staged or fleeting, Boat and Oat's story reminded fans that the most powerful confessions aren't made on stage or under lights. They're whispered into the night, recorded by accident, and carried by fate into the world. And so, what began as a leaked voice note became something bigger, a symbol of love that refused to stay hidden. It wasn't just Oat's confession anymore. It was a message for anyone who's ever loved in silence, hoping one day the world would listen. The night the voice note leaked, the city never really slept. By 2 a.m., Bangkok's skyline glimmered with more than neon. It shimmered with speculation. The audio clip had gone viral, crossing borders and languages, spreading like wildfire through fan pages, forums, and every corner of social media. But as fans dissected every word, the real story unfolded quietly behind closed doors, between two men whose lives had just been turned inside out. Oat Pasakorn sat in his apartment, the dim glow of his phone screen lighting up his face. His name was everywhere, on Twitter trends, news outlets, YouTube reaction videos. He had stayed silent, not because he didn't want to speak, but because every word he'd said in that voice note had been meant for one person only. Now the whole world had heard it. He replayed the clip again, just once, his own trembling confession echoing through the room. He doesn't have to say it back. I just need him to know. Those final words now haunted him, not because of embarrassment, but because they were true. Across the city, Boat Yonggiat sat by his window, phone in hand, earphones plugged in. He had heard the leak too, probably 100 times by now. But unlike the rest of the world, he didn't need to decode anything. Every breath, every pause, every word had meaning only they understood. The night breeze filtered through the half-open curtain, and for a moment, Boat closed his eyes, remembering the night Oat had recorded it. It was 6 months earlier. The shooting for My Stubborn had just wrapped. The crew had celebrated until late, laughter spilling through the streets. But Oat had slipped away quietly, sitting in his car, unable to shake the feeling that something inside him was breaking free. That was when he opened his phone's recorder and whispered those words into the night. He hadn't planned to send it to anyone. He just needed to say it, to breathe it out. Somehow, the file found its way into the world. And now, that raw confession was rewriting their story in front of millions. The morning after the leak, the industry buzzed with tension. Reporters camped outside both their agencies, waiting for statements that never came. Yet, instead of chaos, what followed was something unexpected: silence. No denial, no PR spin. Just the kind of quiet that says everything. Oat finally left his apartment that afternoon, disguised in a hoodie and sunglasses. Cameras didn't catch him. He went to a small cafe hidden in Sukhumvit, the same cafe he and Boat used to sneak away to after shoots. The place smelled like roasted beans and rain. He sat in the corner, waiting. A few minutes later, Boat arrived. No disguises, no hesitation. When their eyes met, the tension melted. Boat slid into the seat across from him. "You okay?" he asked softly. Oat chuckled under his breath, the sound shaky. "I guess the world knows now." Boat leaned forward, his gaze steady. "I've known for a long time." They sat in silence, the air heavy but comforting. The hum of the espresso machine filled the pauses between them. Oat stared at the table, his hand brushing the rim of his cup. "I never meant for them to hear it," he said. "That was just me trying to stop pretending." Boat smiled faintly. "Then maybe it's good they did. Now you don't have to." Outside, rain began to fall, soft and unhurried. It was almost poetic, like the world was washing away the noise, leaving just the truth behind. For the first time in months, Oat looked up, really looked at Boat. There was no fear left in his eyes. Later that evening, a fan spotted them walking under one umbrella, heading toward the car park. The photo was blurry, but it didn't matter. The image spoke louder than any headline. Two men, side by side, sharing quiet laughter under the rain. The picture went viral instantly. No words needed. One fan wrote, "This is love in motion." Inside the car, the rain drummed softly against the roof. Boat turned on the radio. A slow song filled the silence. "They're going to keep talking," Oat said quietly. "Let them," Boat replied. "We've been hiding too long." Their hands brushed on the console between them, and for the first time, they didn't pull away. That night, as fans celebrated online, another clip surfaced, this time from an older live broadcast. In it, Boat had been asked about his ideal type. He smiled and said, "Someone who doesn't give up easily. Someone stubborn." The audience laughed, thinking it was a playful reference to My Stubborn, but now fans realized it had been a quiet nod to Oat all along. Back at Oat's apartment, the atmosphere had changed. The weight was gone. The world already knew his secret, and somehow, it felt freeing. He looked at his phone again, a message from Boat. "If the world's listening, let them hear this too." Attached was a short voice clip. Oat pressed play. Boat's voice came through, low and calm. "You never had to say it alone." That recording would never leak, but it didn't have to. It wasn't meant for the world. It was the sound of two hearts finally meeting halfway, a quiet answer to a confession whispered months ago. Days passed, and what could have been a scandal turned into a celebration. Fans began creating art, writing letters, and sending messages of love. The voice note wasn't seen as an invasion anymore, but as a gift, a rare moment of sincerity that had touched millions. When the pair finally appeared in public weeks later at an award show, the crowd erupted. Boat reached for Oat's hand as they walked the red carpet. Cameras flashed, voices screamed, but they didn't flinch. Boat smiled, leaned closer, and said something that only Oat could hear. Oat laughed softly, his shoulders relaxing, his heart visible in his eyes. That one moment became iconic, a freeze frame of truth in a world built on performance. For the fans who had followed their story from day one, it felt like the closing scene of a film they never wanted to end. The leaked confession that had started as an accident ended as a promise that love, no matter how private or fragile, finds its way into the light. And as Oat would later write in his journal, a line that fans would quote endlessly, "Sometimes, what escapes you isn't a mistake. It's the truth that refuses to stay silent." In that truth, Boat and Oat finally found peace, not in the approval of others, but in the quiet certainty of being seen, heard, and understood by the only person who mattered.